August, I think.
Oh, really? I try to come out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I try and come out if I know people in the class. I don't know people in the class, I'm kind of less interested.
I don't know anyone anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Everyone knows either moved back to the home country or they're very similar.
I mean, you're in like a design position, so it's kind of good to share your... I mean, you can try and like share experiences like eBay and stuff, but I think sometimes it's kind of like, yeah, I can't really help you too much.
I know that when I was at I spent as much time seeing a designer as I did.
Yeah, you do everything.
Yeah, I put you as independent.
I spent as much time.
I don't know. I wasn't sure else to call you.
I know, liberal, libertarian, NDP.
NDP?
You got a ticket to sit.
Good evening, everybody.
I didn't notice.
Thank you all for coming out. We're just waiting for a few people to get signed in here, and everybody gets seated, and we'll get going. I know you guys have all got a very busy night ahead of you, so I don't want to delay that by standing up here talking longer than I have to. So welcome to the 33rd class of game design. It's kind of crazy, especially for a lot of you alumni that are coming back here, to think how far we've come since then. New building, new location, and a whole lot of new classes. Tonight is ultimately a culmination of 3 major projects that the students do during their year here. They start with a board game, they move on to a 2D game, and then this is that final project. It's 8 weeks of pre-production, 12 weeks of development, and all building up towards tonight, where they get a chance to show you guys what they've created, and ultimately have you come upstairs and play their games and give them direct feedback on what it is that they've been doing and what the opportunities are out there for them. Thank you all for taking the time to come out tonight. Tonight is actually going to be a fairly quick night. We've only got 3 teams that are presenting, showing you their games. It's a little bit of a smaller class. So as part of that, we'd like to show you a little bit of a sneak peek of what some of the other classes are doing that are behind them and coming soon. So we thought we'd show you something that we do early on in the term, which is the Flash project, creating a 2D based game. And these guys will show you a little bit of the presentation that they put together earlier this term, end of last term, and give you a sense of the other kinds of games they're created before we get started. Guys, are you ready?
Yeah.
This is Sweet Escape. No, I'm kidding. I told them I'd say that. It's the wrong way.
Hello everybody, we are super excited to be able to present our Flash game to you guys today. The 4 of us spent 4 months on it. I think we spent about 500 hours on top of our classes putting this game together, so we're like super excited that we get to present it to you today. My name is Dustin Williamson. We'll get to everybody else in a minute. We're just waiting for the game to get set up here. We have to change the screen resolution because it's Flash, so it won't run nicely in full screen. All right, here we go. So our game is called Run or Roast. As mentioned, my name is Dustin Williamson. My little avatar is this guy here. I was the assistant programmer, animator, project manager, and I was also in charge of the audio.
Hey, I'm Ethan Maddox. I was the programmer and cinematic animator for this game.
Hi, I'm James Beasley. I was the level designer in QA.
And I'm Emiliano, and I'm the artist.
And we'd like to throw out a special thanks to the names in black here. We used music from Newgrounds, and these are their names. We'd also like to thank the teachers and instructors that spent a lot of time helping us develop this game.
And a special thanks to Benjamin Stern.
All right, we'll go ahead and click play and let you watch the intro cinematic. So you play as this little marshmallow guy here. Your job is to collect other marshmallows before evil humans roast them alive and eat them. So as you notice, when James picks up one of the marshmallows, he gets another one in the top left-hand corner of the screen. That bar essentially acts as your health. You lose marshmallows when the timer reaches 0. A hand will come in and grab one of your marshmallows and you'll see him get roasted alive over the fire. And once you run out of marshmallows, you get a game over. So this is the slow fall mechanic that we added in that helps the player clear large gaps, such as the fire you are about to see. If you land on fire, you die and you go back to the beginning of the level, but you don't lose any marshmallows. So it's essentially each level is a race against time. I'm now going to turn it over to Ethan to talk about the cinematic as well as some programming.
So my major issue with Run or Roast is that I had never used Flash before and never animated anything before, but I really enjoyed animating this. It was quite a lot of fun.
As level designer for Run or Roast, one of the greater challenges I faced was the evolution of the game from pre-production. It originally started off as a puzzler, but as we found players really enjoyed the parkour element, we decided to focus in on that and then end up with an action platformer you see before you. But with this change, we needed additional assets to create the path the player follows. And this asset was the fire you saw previously. With this, I was able to create high and low intensity points for the player to enjoy. And now I'll pass it on over to Emiliano to talk about the art.
Well, the first thing that I created here was the main character, and everything around it I created based on him. So I wanted to have this contrast between the two layers, the layer of the background and the foreground. The layer of the background is lighter and the foreground is darker, so the character has more contrast in the game.
So we decided along the point in production to take it up to the next notch and give you guys a boss battle.
You fool!
So we actually came up with this fairly late in design, about 3 weeks before it was due, but thanks to the modularity of the design, it was very quick to iterate and quick to playtest.
So your goal is to try and get the boss hand stuck on the gum, and then you punch him, and then he'll start dropping fireballs at you. He's actually really difficult to beat, and we don't want to take up too much of your time, so James is going to use cheats to kill the boss.
Beautiful cheats.
Thank you so much for giving up some of your time so that we can show you our Flash game. We'd like to wish the best of luck to all the GD33s we're about to present to you guys tonight. Thank you very much.
So that's a game they create after only a couple of terms of training. Now what you're going to see is a culmination of a couple more terms. And as part of their training, feedback is hugely important. We bring in mentors to help them go through the process, help them understand what they should be focusing on, where their attention should be, where they should be drawing more attention to detail, scoping, all those kinds of things. Thanks, John. This is a big part of it, and you guys are a big part of that as well. When you came in, you were given one of these forms, and these forms are feedback forms that we give directly to the students. Unfiltered feedback, so be kind. But true feedback is really important to them. We want to make sure that they're learning from the experience. You can fill out those forms while you're here. You can fill out those forms after you've seen all the games, you've had a chance to play them upstairs, and then just give it to any of the staff members that you see around, and we'll make sure the students get it. As a little gift, there is a blue drink ticket attached to that, which you can use to get yourself a refreshment upstairs. And if you feel like you really need more than one drink, all you have to do is talk to one of the students and they can provide you more. So, we're going to move on and talk about something a little bit different. How many of you have been camping? Yeah. All right. How many of you have been camping and then you wake up in a big pile of blood and sweat and, you know, the tent's all a big mess? And, yeah. Okay. You want to go camping? All right, this is Camp Ronoak.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Before anything, we want to thank you all for being here tonight. And just very briefly, before we jump into the game, we would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Juan Perez Cruz. I was a project manager in Camp Ronoak.
My name is Anna Prain. I was the lead programmer.
I'm Tyson Benrar. I was the artist.
I'm Michelangelo. I was technical artist and UI programmer.
We are very excited tonight. Well, maybe a little nervous, but we're very excited to talk about this project in which we've been working pretty hard for the last few months or years. I'm not quite sure anymore. And we hope you enjoy the game as much as we do. So Camp Ronoak is a procedurally generated multiplayer hack and slash where you take control of one of 4 kids, either Yuna, Isaac, Alex, or Toby. Where you went, well, the story is that you went camping, and when you woke up, your parents had disappeared. So you have to escape. You have to find your way out of this forest by fighting evil creatures using only a wooden stick with flaming marshmallows, or as we call it, the marshmallow. We decided to go with this title, Camp Ronoak, after this little known historical fact that a few hundred years ago, the Ronoak colony came to North America, and they vanished into thin air. So up to today, no one can really say what happened to them. So we thought it would be a good idea to incorporate this whole theme into our title. But for now, let's jump into the adventure.
Alright, so they've chosen Yuna and Isaac for their characters. We have 4 characters, but they share a similar moveset. They have 2 attacks and a dash. One of the attacks is a standard attack, and the other is a charged move where they walk a little bit slower, but can potentially deal up to 2 times more damage. The dash is also super useful for getting in and out of combat situations and dodging your enemy's attacks.
Animating for these abilities was definitely a learning experience for me because I would usually focus on the anticipation and the payoff of a character action. But in this case, in order to have responsive feeling controls, I needed to take away most, if not all, of the frames from the anticipation. So I think I reanimated the main attack about 6 or 7 times, and I needed to work very closely with the programmers as well to get it not only looking good, but feeling good. The enemy animations are also very important because that's where the player looks to predict what the enemy is going to do next.
In addition to the animations, we had to make sure that the enemy AI was translatable to the player. The players really needed to understand when the enemies were going to attack them and when it was safe for the players to approach them.
Character design was also very important. Right now we have 2 players on screen at once, but you can play with up to 4 people at once, and there's many enemies on screen. So the characters need to be distinguishable from each other, and there's also a lot of information that we need to portray to the players so they know what's going on at all times. So we have a lot of custom particles and other tricks to make that very obvious.
Yeah, we use custom particles to show players when they've hit an enemy, when they've died. It's like sound, also feedback when the player themselves get hit, and various other layers.
So I'm gonna take it. Okay. So I'm not sure if you got a chance to see, but they were getting to our ghost bear. He's our NPC, and what he does is he collects all the cookies that we've been gathering as we are defeating enemies, and in exchange he's willing to give us an upgrade. You can pick from 6 different, and we decided to put this feature in the game so that each player can make a decision on how they want to build their character. And when you meet with the ghost bear, it also means that you've reached the end of a day. So a new one is going to be generated, and I'm going to let Anna tell you a bit more about this.
So you'll notice that when we restarted the level, the path has actually changed. So each day is what we call a level, and each level is procedurally generated on a grid and tile-based system. So we generate a path on a grid, and then we place tiles accordingly, rotating them as need be.
Creating art for these tiles was a fun challenge as well because I never knew where they were going to spawn or how they were going to be rotated and then interlock with each other. So I needed to ensure that not only the geometry but the textures fit together seamlessly without getting those repeating patterns you see a lot of the time in tile textures. Another thing that the procedural generation meant was that we couldn't use baked lighting or mip mapping, both of which are usually ways you optimize your game, but in our case they created visible seams in the environment. So we had to be very smart in how we use real-time lighting and optimize the game in other ways as well.
We used game analytics to find out which tiles are being generated more than others, and using this information we create more varieties of those tiles as well as have different enemy formations on them for the player to have different combat experiences.
There was definitely a lot of challenges and a lot of learning during this development cycle, but we do have to say that we were really lucky to be able to collaborate with extremely talented people like Jesse Cook, who composed all the music in Camp Ronoak, all the way from Fresno, California, and Jeffrey Mengan with Heraldo Abreu, both from the VFS Sound Design campus. They did all of our sound effect. We also want to thank all of our mentors who are always pointing us in the right direction. And that's Camp Ronoak. Thank you very much. So now we're going to take any questions you might have.
So you said it was generating levels. Why? What did they get you? Why did you guys decide to do that?
So the question is, why did we choose to make a procedural generation game?
We decided on that very early on because we wanted to have a game that was infinitely replayable, and we didn't want to spend a lot of time creating 10s, 20s, 30s of levels, just because we have a team of 4 people.
Also, the point of the game is to see how many days you can last. So that means you're going to be playing possibly day 1 over and over. So if it was different every time, we thought that was a lot more appealing. Any more questions? Yes, in the back.
So I'll try to mash this into one question, but when one of your characters died, did they turn into a ghost, and can you explain more about that?
They did. So you can have... Oh, sorry. The question was, one of your players turned into a ghost when they died. I'll explain that a bit more. So we can have 4 people playing at once. Every time you die and there's another person still alive, you'll turn into a ghost, just so you can fly around and kind of interact with the environment. If everyone dies, that means it's a game over. But as long as there's one person alive, if you make it to the end of the day, everyone gets revived. Any more questions? Yes?
I thought there was like a character stat system. Do you get being strong? Do you have any scale at all, or do you get stronger?
Right, so the question was about the stat system and asking if the enemies scale with the characters as they get stronger.
Right, so we implemented the upgrade system to help the players get stronger, as you mentioned. But we didn't have time to fully integrate the enemy scaling as we went on. We have all the hooks for that, we just didn't have the time to complete it.
Yes, right here.
I was just wondering what tools were used in the creation.
We built it in Unity, also all the art assets. Oh, sorry, the question was what tools were used while making the game. We built the actual game in Unity. All the art assets were made in either Maya or ZBrush. Anything else I missed?
Adding on to that, Unity doesn't support nested prefabs, so we had to actually create an XML editor to make the tile system possible.
Any final questions? Yes?
What do you have more development time? What would be the first thing you'd focus on?
Actually, we have a long list of things.
So the question was...
Sorry. The question was, if we had a longer development time, what would we focus on?
Yeah, what would be the number 1 thing?
Number 1 thing?
Yeah, number 1.
We each have a different thing we'd want to add. So for me, number 1 would be to add character-specific abilities.
Personally, I'd definitely like to add more enemies.
I would love to craft a level for it.
And I would like to add branching paths to the generation for the levels. So.
After the end of the first level, it looks like you transitioned into a snow level or something. How many different tile sets are there, and what happens to gameplay after you've seen all the tile sets?
So currently there's... Sorry, the question was, how many different tile sets are there? Right now we have just summer and winter. So they actually alternate, and the further you go, they just alternate, and then we did have the enemy scaling in mind, but we didn't get that in, as previously mentioned. And we'd love to add more themes, but these are the ones we got in.
So we have 2 themes, summer and winter, I think around 12 tile types, and 44 tiles total, with each tile having up to 10 enemy formations on them, so great.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to wrap it up. We'll see you guys upstairs to play the game. Thank you very much.
So as these guys mentioned, they did do some collaboration with sound designer. We do collaboration with the other programs where it makes the most sense. Sound design is one of those campuses that we tend to work a lot with. A lot of the students from over there are very interested in working in games and are happy to work with our students to have their sounds and compositions put into those games. Also mentioned was the mentors. I've talked about the mentors a little bit up front, but the design mentors that we bring in are a key part of our experience. Shane Neville, I know he's in the back there somewhere, worked with these guys to help guide them through the process. And we try to have one key design mentor attached to each team as they're going through, really figuring out what they should focus on. We also have a selection of other design mentors in a number of skills, whether that's Unity programmers or artists, those types of things. And if people are interested in those roles, they should talk to me about it later on in the evening, or if they have other people. One of the key things that we've been doing is we have been building a new program here inside of this campus, which is programming for games, web, and mobile. And we are looking for instructors that are interested in teaching in there. So if you know people that have that interest, definitely get them in touch with me as well. So as we move on, we saw a lot of cool things coming from this next group. It seemed like each time that I went and sat down with them, they had some other crazy thing incorporated. Some space element, some battle element. I don't want to give it all away. This is Hero of Space.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks to all of you for coming here this evening. My name is Siddhartha. I'm the project manager and AI programmer of the team. To my right is Victor, our gameplay programmer and VFX artist. To my left is Nick, our artist and level designer. And it's our pleasure to present to you today, Hero of Space.
Here we go, the final test. Daddy, it's time to make you proud.
So, Hero of Space is a 2.5D side-scroller shooter with Newcomb made in Unity, where you play as Reginald Billings, the 23rd. Reggie is a cadet at the Space Academy in his final test to become the ultimate hero of space. You can control Reggie by using the left stick to move right and left, the right stick to aim his powerful rifle, A or left bumper to jump, and the right trigger to shoot. So, when we decided that we were going to do a side-scroller shooter, we looked at games that we play as kids. Games that we love, like Contra and Metal Slug, and we asked ourselves, what was good about those games? So, like, what are the good bits from those games that we could borrow and implement in our game? So, the first thing, the shooting. Shooting is our main mechanic. You're going to be doing a lot of shooting in our game. So, we had to make sure that shooting was fun. So, we spent a lot of time working on small details regarding shooting, like knockback on the player, camera shake, vibration on the controller, inaccuracy on the weapon, a fast fire rate. So we could combine those small details and make the experience so much better for the player. Another thing that we wanted to do was every time you kill a robot or an enemy, we wanted to give like a rewarding visual feedback to the player. So every time you destroy one, we give you a big explosions with parts flying everywhere. So we spent a lot of time refining those things, but one day Nick just looked at me and said,
"It's still not enough."
It was not enough, so we come up with this scenario.
Ah, it's an invasion!
Another thing that we noticed from games like Contra and Metal Slug is that they would have bosses and mini bosses in the middle of the combat to break a little bit the experience and show something new to the player. So we made our own boss battle and an homage to a game that we love, that is Space Invaders. Now I'm gonna hand it to Nick, who's gonna talk to you about art and level design.
Thanks, Victor. So when we initially set off to create the levels for Hero of Space, we came up with 2 3-minute experiences. And after whiteboxing and playtesting these, we found that they just didn't feel right. They were too slow, too long, and we just weren't getting the right feedback that we wanted to give the player. Especially once we added the music in, it was just way quicker than we wanted. Or not quick enough, sorry. So what we did was, we took those 2 sections and we chopped them up into 30 little pieces. We took these new 30 stages, and then we playtested these until we found the 13 final stages that you're seeing here tonight.
We felt that it was much more rewarding. The player felt like they were achieving something and finishing their goals in a much faster setting. Now, once we had these developed and put together, we were really missing our art, and this was our biggest challenge during the process, because my focus wasn't really on art during my year here at VFS. So what we did was we took a lot of inspiration from old B sci-fi movies, as well as modern cartoons like Rick and Morty or Futurama. And we tried to really just sort of put together that surreal sci-fi vibe and keep the game really feeling out of this world. During this time, Victor decided to put some cool point lights on the lasers, and we noticed that it actually looked really cool whenever he would sort of shoot through the environment and the lasers would streak past, lighting everything up. But there was still something missing. I mean, the game just wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, so we just kept filling it up and adding more different varieties of bushes and plants and stuff to really kind of give the player a variety of what he's seeing. But it was still missing something, so Sid turned to me one day and he said,
Nick, it's not enough.
So we decided to go with the old less is more adage and turn out the lights.
And now, regarding the enemies of the game, we decided to make them robots because we felt that aliens were so last gen. And we gave these robots 3 different body parts: a head, a torso, and legs. And based on which part is attached to the robot, its behavior changes. For instance, if you shoot out the head, the robot can no longer see or aim at you. Or if you take out the legs, they can move. So we created a tool in Unity which allowed us to put together these 3 parts very quickly and test out different variations and put the best ones in the game. Animations was another department that we had quite a challenge in because none of us had experience in it before. So we had to learn that during development and implement them in the game. Once we had our character fully animated and we had all the levels and the enemies, we still felt that there was this one element that was missing. So when we were playtesting one day, both Nick and Victor looked at me and said,
"It's still not enough."
It's not enough, dude.
Come on, guys, it's not enough.
And that is our voice actor Felipe, who does an awesome impression of an 80s action star, whose voice you may or may not recognize. And now let's take some time to listen to the awesome audio work done by our sound collaborators, Sean and Tazio. And as we approach the final boss level of the game, we would like you to come upstairs and defeat that boss and prove yourselves to be the ultimate hero of space. Thank you. We'd now like to open up the floor to any questions that you might have. Yes?
Did you guys experiment with any different weapon types other than the machine gun?
The question was, did we experiment with different weapon types other than the machine gun? Well, initially we had plans for like crazy weapons like a lava gun which shoots lava, and a slingshot which shoots like a ball of dark matter energy which slowly expands and blows up everything on the screen. But when we prototyped these weapons, we found that it took a lot of time to make them feel really good for the player to use. So we decided to go with the standard laser assault rifle. But if we had time, we'll definitely go back and work on those weapons and implement them in the game. Yes?
Yeah, as you mentioned Metal Slug and Contra, one of the funny features of those games is that they don't have health bars. They're just kind of one hit, one kill. So what was the decision between, or kind of, what was the decision of adding a health bar and kind of, making that difference between those other two?
So the question was, old games like Contra and Metal Slug don't have health bars, they're more one hit, one kill, so why did we go with the health bar even though those were our main inspirations? Basically, we just kind of found that our game was too difficult and we didn't want to give the player just like 30 lives to try to complete it, but we also didn't want to tone down the difficulty, so we kind of found a balance by just adding a life bar in so that people could kind of make a choice between what they wanted to do, whether just risk it and go after a bunch of guys or play it safe.
Any more questions? Yes?
If you guys could add one extra character ability, what would it be?
So the question was, if we could add one extra ability to the character, what it would be? We can't think of like something. We probably would add more weapons to the game.
Any more? All right, then we'll see you guys upstairs. Thank you.
So Kayla Canoon, I know you're back there somewhere. She was the mentor for that group. The next mentor was Dan Sochan, who helped these next guys. And Dan was somebody who would come in every week and spend a lot of time with them, giving them advice. And he kept telling me, you know, these guys are making a game about effectively baking. But it's not baking that I'm seeing from them, it's chemistry. And the chemistry of them working together and creating an amazing team. Andrew trained me. So that combination of baking and chemistry resulted in what you're about to see here, which is Jukebox Paradise.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Dave. We do have great chemistry. We are experiencing some controller input syncing issues. But, well, this is Jukebox Paradise. We are very excited to be here tonight. So again, good evening everyone. We are coming to you live from the press box at VFS for the Jukebox Paradise Games. It looks like we have a great turnout for tonight's game, in which our players are going to be brawling on a spinning vinyl record to collect the most number of milkshake ingredients before the timer runs out. So introducing the commentators for tonight, we have myself, Maria Lee, the project manager.
Janelle Jolly, the environmental and technical artist.
Frankie Fasola, the programmer.
And Alberto Mastretta, animator and UI artist.
Now, let's meet the jukeboxers that will be battling for tonight's championship. We have number 1, Ginger.
Don't worry, I'm gonna win this game like nobody's business.
And Lewis.
Alright, nice choice.
Johnny.
Still missing here.
And Sophia. So, to really showcase the players' abilities, Johnny and Sophia will be joining us later on in the game. Well, it looks like the battle is about to begin, and handing it off to my colleague Frankie, tell us what's going on in the arena.
Thanks, Maria. It's really great to be down here record side at Jukebox Paradise. We're going to have a great match tonight between Ginger and Lewis. They're going to be competing to grab the 3 ingredients you see on the back of the screen. And when they grab all 3 ingredients, they'll get a milkshake. And the first one to get 3 milkshakes will win tonight's game. So Jukebox Paradise, it didn't always look this good. In fact, 12 weeks ago, it was just a record in empty blue space. And the players, I made them, they were capsules. I thought they were really awesome. But I know Alberto could do a much better job. So Alberto?
Sure thing, Frank. So, as you saw, the characters were really out of shape. So we got them through some training, and through it, we realized that these guys not only love to dress in style, these guys love brawling.
And brawling is what they do, Alberto. In fact, they brawled so much, we couldn't get them to do anything else. So we decided to take their love for punching and use it to create much better scenarios for the sport. We decided to take the most exciting part of the game and use it to make everything else that much more enjoyable. And that's why we added the trays. So Ginger, thanks for putting an ingredient on your tray. The players had the ability to use their combat to knock the ingredient off the tray, but also use the punch to defend it. So they had to use the combat for offense to get the ingredient, and defense to defend it, to score. Lewis, can you put the wrong ingredient on your tray? And so if they put a wrong ingredient on a tray, it gives them an advantage and breaks the opponent's tray for a brief period of time. So Alberto, that light on the jukebox is really cool. Can you tell us more about it, please?
Sure thing, Frank. For Jukebox Paradise, it was a big priority to make very clear information for the players about their goals. So we stepped back and thought about the key things that they needed to know. And we realized that we needed them to know too many things. So we created a new game mode that needs the players to collect 3 ingredients in a round-based scenario. This also helps the players that are falling behind to have a chance to come back in the game. But those were not the only changes that Jukebox Paradise had. There was another big change coming right around the corner.
That's right, Alberto. The game was going great and players were having a great time punching, but some felt like they were getting beat up and had no way to defend themselves. We really didn't know what to do, and Ginger took it on herself. So Ginger, why don't you show us what you came up with? The spin move allows players to deflect punches. So now players had a way to defend themselves in combat when they were getting beat up, and they could use it also when they had the ingredient to protect themselves. So Alberto, that spin move looked pretty powerful. Why don't you tell us more about it since you were the animator?
You know, Frank, there's only so much these guys can take. And getting beat up and spinning at the same time, I really don't blame these guys for not being able to spin more than 5 times. And it also helps the gameplay because this way they don't spam the move. But the biggest priority for these guys was to be fast and responsive. And it took a lot of iteration and training. But now, all they want to do is go out there and play in that wonderful arena that Janelle created for us.
Thanks, Albert. I want to welcome everyone inside Jukebox Paradise. It's the bee's knees as far as 1950s diners go, but we had to do a lot of research as a team to figure out what made these old-fashioned diners so incredibly charming before we could build one ourselves. And since we already have a giant record, we figured to put that diner in the jukebox. To make this process more efficient, we decided to take a snapshot of our white box and bring it down to the old Photoshop and put both colors and lights onto the scene to get the vibe we were after. This was the bread and butter in giving us a very early visual target of what our final paint job should look like, and we're to put all those groovy lights to make things pop.
And pop it does, Janelle. So I'm noticing all these musical notes that come out when the characters are spinning. What's up with that?
Why yes, Maria, there's a lot of musical notes. Our jukeboxes are equipped with a whole lot of fancy particles to show off all their actions. We have musical notes coming out of the record when they spin and when ingredients spawn. We also have them punching like the action comedy Batman TV show. We have a lot of shining stars when they get dazed, and lastly, we have a whole lot of sparkles spread all throughout the environment to give it that extra bling. During this entire creative process, the art team was listening to some swinging 1950s music, all brought to us by the Jukebox Paradise Band. And Maria's going to tell you more about that.
Would love to. So when the Jukebox Paradise League first started, our players brawled in silence. They were completely mute and there was no peep to be made in the environment. So we assembled the Jukebox Paradise Band from the VFS Sound Design Campus to make us some awesome sounds. So special thanks to Eduardo Pulitzer, Eddie Barone, Penelope Walcott, and Zach Vogel. And I think it's about time that we saw Johnny and Sophia duke it out with Ginger and Lewis. So Sophia and Johnny, come out and play.
Well, ready, go!
Ginger and Sophia have won this round, but the title for tonight's championship is still up for grabs. Special thanks to Jacobson and Ray from Term 5 for playing while we were presenting. And so we offer you this opportunity to grab a partner, form a team, come upstairs and play some Jukebox Paradise, where winners will receive ice cream sandwiches. And the first 20 people to come upstairs and play will also win a Jukebox Paradise drink. There is limited quantity, so please do come quick. Thank you so much. We would love to take any questions that you may now have. Yes?
What made you choose to make a brawler that was also team-based?
So the question was, what made us choose a brawler that was team-based?
So in the beginning, we did have a free-for-all mode, But as the game progressed, we found that it was more fun to play on a team with another player, and you can still punch your teammate because people had a lot of fun doing that. So it's, we think it turned out a lot better this way.
Yes.
You guys ever consider adding any sorts of power-ups or random events?
So the question was, did we ever consider adding power-ups or any other random events, Janelle?
Actually, we did make power-ups. We modeled a guitar they could play, which was an AoE punch. We had a disco ball, where they could be inside the disco ball, and if anyone punched them, they would get knocked back. And we also had golden shoes, so they could just run across really fast. However, when we implemented them, we ran into some challenges, which Frankie will tell you about.
So the biggest challenge was that the players didn't know they could have the power-ups or how to get them. And then through playtesting, we saw they were having a great time anyway. And with the limited time we had left, we'd rather polish up the rest of the experience because they weren't adding that much at the stage they were at. So we decided to cut them. But if we had more time, we would have loved to put them in.
Any other questions? Nope. Well, then we will see you upstairs to play some Jukebox Paradise. Thank you, everybody.
So as I mentioned, this is a little smaller class, so that's all the presentations we have for you tonight. We invite you to head upstairs for some snacks and some refreshments. We also have one more project upstairs you have a chance to play. It's called Minerva. It was a single-player project, kind of an interesting concept of a platformer game, well worth checking out. As I mentioned, we do request your feedback to help our students improve what they're doing, and we can collect that from you after you've had a chance to play the games upstairs. So we'll see you upstairs. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Carl, what'd you do that, Carl?
There's a this game here. Ronoak. I know I came here because there was a game about space. Oh, the space game.